Kai Bennett was walking along the rocky canyon path on the edge of the outer settlement when he first noticed a commotion. The air was thick with dust, and the low hum of approaching engines and shouted warnings carried over the barren landscape. He stopped, squinting into the distance, and saw a small figure struggling against 3 raiders. The girl was unlike anyone he had ever seen. Her skin shimmered faintly, and her hair had a strange silver hue that caught the sunlight. She was cornered near the edge of the cliff, her movements quick but defensive. It was clear she was trying to fight them off, but she was outnumbered and clearly exhausted. Kai's instincts kicked in immediately. He had trained for situations like this: danger, unexpected combat, protecting those in need, but he had never faced anything quite like this. The girl's attackers were armed with plasma batons, crude but deadly in skilled hands. She held a small dagger, thin and elegant, but it was no match for the coordinated assault of 3 aggressive raiders. Kai could see fear and determination in her eyes, a mixture that both terrified and impressed him. He took a deep breath, gripping his own sidearm tightly. He had to act fast. Hesitation could mean death for her, and he could not allow that. Without thinking about the danger to himself, Kai ran toward the group. Dust and small stones kicked up under his boots as he sprinted. The raiders were so focused on the girl that they didn't notice him until he was close enough to be a threat. He raised his hand, shouting, "Leave her alone." The words barely registered with the attackers. They continued their assault, thinking the human would be just another obstacle to push aside. But Kai had no intention of being ignored. He needed to stop them, and he needed to stop them now. As he reached the group, his eyes fell on something unusual: a sword lying at the girl's side, ornate and glowing faintly. He had no idea of its origin, but he understood instinctively that it was significant. Elara, the girl, had her hands near it, trying to reach it while defending herself. In a split second, Kai grabbed the sword. His fingers closed around the hilt, and an immediate sense of connection ran through him, almost like the sword recognized his presence. It was warm, light in his grip, and he felt a surge of energy that steadied his nerves. He had no idea what was happening, only that he now had the means to protect her effectively. The raiders noticed immediately. Their eyes widened in surprise, and they hesitated for a fraction of a second, long enough for Kai to assess the situation. The sword was light and perfectly balanced, almost as if it had been made for him. He didn't know why it felt so natural in his hands, but he trusted the feeling. The first raider lunged at him with a plasma baton. Kai moved with precision, swinging the sword in a clean arc that deflected the strike and sent the raider stumbling back. Shocked, the attacker barely regained balance before the sword flicked forward again, disarming him entirely. Elara watched in awe. She had never expected anyone to intervene so boldly, let alone wield her clan's sacred sword. In her culture, the sword was a symbol of protection, honor, and destiny. Only those chosen by fate could wield it properly, and she had never seen a human near it before. She felt a strange mixture of fear, hope, and disbelief as she saw Kai fighting with skill, strength, and focus. It was as though the sword itself guided him, connecting to something inside him that even he did not fully understand. The battle continued, the raiders recovering their composure and attempting to surround him. Kai stayed alert, using both his training and the sword's responsiveness to defend against attacks. He moved quickly, anticipating their strikes and countering with precision. The sword seemed almost alive, responding to his thoughts and intentions. Every movement was fluid, each strike controlled. The attackers, initially confident, began to falter, their fear growing as Kai's skill became evident. Elara found herself taking a hesitant step forward, still holding her dagger but realizing she no longer needed to act alone. The sight of a human wielding her sacred sword so effectively was unlike anything she had imagined. A surge of gratitude filled her, mingled with curiosity about this man who had risked his life without hesitation. Kai was clearly human, and yet he handled the sword with a familiarity that suggested something deeper, something extraordinary. She wondered if it was luck or destiny that had brought him here, that had allowed him to intervene at the exact right moment. The raiders regrouped, deciding to attack together. Kai anticipated the move. With a swift motion, he disarmed another raider and used the sword's weight to push him aside, creating distance. The third raider hesitated, realizing they were outmatched. Kai didn't press the advantage recklessly. He understood that his goal was to protect the girl, not to seek revenge. He moved with purpose, ensuring Elara was out of harm's way. His mind remained calm, focusing on defense, protection, and strategy. Every instinct he had honed over years of training was put to use, yet it felt effortless because of the sword. Elara, recovering from the shock of the fight, stepped closer to Kai, still cautious but feeling safer than she had in days. She saw the determination in his eyes, the calm way he assessed danger, and the way the sword seemed to respond to his intentions. She had been abandoned, left to fend for herself in dangerous territory, and she had learned to survive through skill and instinct. But she realized in that moment that she had never encountered someone who could act with both courage and wisdom simultaneously. Kai was remarkable, and the sword's reaction to him only made her more curious. The final raider attempted a desperate move, charging at Kai with his baton raised high. With a smooth motion, Kai sidestepped, pivoting the sword and deflecting the strike. The attacker stumbled past, off balance, and fell to the ground, defeated but unharmed. Kai took a deep breath, lowering the sword slightly but keeping a watchful eye on his surroundings. The raiders had fled, leaving the canyon quiet once more. Dust settled over the rocks and the sun's rays glinted off the sword, highlighting its intricate designs. Kai held it firmly, aware of the responsibility now resting in his hands. Ilara approached cautiously, her eyes fixed on the sword and then on him. You saved me," she said softly, her voice a mixture of disbelief and relief. Kai nodded, still catching his breath. "I didn't have a choice," he replied simply. "I couldn't let them hurt you." She noticed the sincerity in his tone, the quiet strength that seemed to radiate from him. There was no arrogance, no boastfulness, only determination and compassion. She felt a strange warmth and reassurance in his presence, as though she had found a protector she could trust completely. The canyon was silent except for their breaths and the distant sound of wind sweeping across the rocks. Kai lowered the sword fully, handing it back to Ilara. She took it, her hands trembling slightly as she recognized the sacred symbol of her clan in his grip. Her people had always said the sword would reveal the destined protector, the one chosen by fate. She had never imagined it would be a human, someone from a species her clan had only known as outsiders. Yet in that moment she realized that destiny had brought him to her. The realization filled her with awe, gratitude, and a sense of wonder. Kai glanced at her, noticing her expression. "It's yours," he said, his voice calm. "I just used it to keep you safe." Ilara nodded, feeling a deep sense of respect for him. He had risked everything without knowing the full significance of the sword, without knowing it marked him in her culture. That fact made his actions even more extraordinary. He had not sought reward, recognition, or glory. He had acted purely to protect someone in need. The weight of that selflessness struck her profoundly. As they began walking toward the settlement, Ilara keeping the sword in her hands, she noticed the way Kai moved with quiet confidence and steady focus. He didn't speak much, but his presence was commanding and reassuring. She realized that she had never met anyone like him. Someone who combined bravery, intelligence, and compassion in equal measure. The sword had revealed something about him, yes, but even without it, his character was evident. She felt safe and valued, a feeling she had rarely experienced in her life. Kai looked around at the barren canyon, scanning for any lingering threats. He was aware that this encounter could have ended badly, that luck or timing could have shifted the outcome. But he felt no regret. He had acted according to his principles, protecting someone who could not defend herself fully. He sensed a connection forming, not just with the sword but with the girl himself. Something about her presence resonated with him, a quiet curiosity, a recognition of shared purpose. He could not explain it, only feel it. The walk to the settlement was quiet, but not uncomfortable. Ilara kept the sword close, feeling the subtle warmth that seemed to linger from Kai's touch. She wondered about the significance, about the stories her clan elders would tell, and about the stranger who had changed the course of her life in a single moment. Kai remained observant, alert for any further dangers, but also aware that their journey together had begun in a remarkable and unexpected way. It was the start of something neither fully understood, yet both sensed the importance of. By the time they reached the hidden settlement, the sun was lowering in the sky, casting long shadows across the rocky terrain. The people within watched cautiously as Kai and Ilara approached. Their expressions shifted from suspicion to surprise as they noticed the sword and recognized its sacred design. Whispers spread among the gathered clan members, hinting at prophecies, fate, and the unexpected arrival of a human. Kai remained humble, explaining only that he had acted to protect Ilara, not seeking any recognition. The elders exchanged glances, intrigued by the unfolding events. Ilara turned to Kai, holding the sword close to her chest. "I don't know what your place in all this is," she said softly, "but you've done something incredible today." Kai nodded modestly. "I didn't know it was sacred," he admitted. "I just knew I couldn't let them hurt you." She smiled faintly, realizing that his actions spoke louder than any words or symbols ever could. In that moment, both of them understood that the bond formed in the canyon would have lasting consequences, far beyond their comprehension. Kai Bennett guided Alara through the winding paths of the hidden settlement. The village was built into the rocky cliffs, with structures carved from the stone itself, blending seamlessly into the landscape. It was quiet, almost peaceful, but beneath that calm was the tension of a people who had learned to survive under constant threat. Alara walked beside Kai, her steps careful but steady. She had watched him in battle and had been impressed, but now as they moved through her home, she began to notice other things. His calm demeanor, the patience in his movements, and the way he seemed to respect the space and people around him. Kai noticed the intricate carvings on the walls of the settlement and the small gardens that thrived despite the harsh environment. It was clear that the people here valued tradition, skill and care in every detail. He asked Alara questions not out of curiosity alone but because he genuinely wanted to understand her world. "How long has your clan lived here?" he asked, keeping his voice low so as not to startle anyone. Alara's eyes brightened. She had never had anyone ask about her people with real interest before. "For hundreds of years," she replied softly. "We have always protected these lands even when outsiders thought we were weak." Kai listened intently, nodding. He could see the pride in her voice, the way she spoke of her clan's history and struggles. He sensed that she had a deep connection to her people and her home, and he wanted to honor that. He did not rush her or interrupt. He allowed her to guide the conversation, sharing what she felt comfortable revealing. As they walked, he made small gestures of courtesy, stepping aside to let her pass first through narrow corridors, carefully watching his footing to avoid disturbing the delicate carvings and structures. Alara noticed these gestures and felt a warmth she had not expected. Many humans she had encountered were rough, impatient, or dismissive. Kai was different. He treated her with respect, listening fully, responding thoughtfully, and acting with consideration. She realized that his actions were consistent, not just polite words. This was a human who understood honor and empathy, and it made her feel safe in a way she had rarely experienced. She began to trust him, not because of the sword, not because he had saved her, but because of the care he showed in the everyday moments of their journey. As they reached the center of the settlement, elders and clan leaders emerged to meet them. Their eyes fell on Kai and then on the sword he had wielded. The sacred blade, which glowed faintly even in the dim light of the settlement, seemed to react subtly, almost vibrating with recognition. The elders murmured among themselves, noticing the unusual reaction. In their culture, the sword was not just a weapon, it was a symbol of destiny and connection. For it to respond this way to a human was unprecedented. They exchanged glances, unsure but intrigued, and stepped forward cautiously. Kai greeted the elders respectfully, bowing slightly as a sign of acknowledgement. He explained simply, "I found her in danger. I only wished to protect her." His tone was humble, without exaggeration or claim of greatness. The elders studied him carefully. They could sense that he spoke the truth. His actions had proven courage and skill, but it was his demeanor now, respectful, patient, sincere, that impressed them most. It was clear he did not seek personal gain, only to act in service of protection and trust. Alara watched the interaction silently. She felt pride and surprise in equal measure. The elders had always been cautious, sometimes harsh, but Kai's sincerity seemed to soften their judgment. She realized that she had underestimated the human capacity for respect and honor. She felt a quiet sense of hope that perhaps humans and her people could coexist peacefully, guided by principles rather than fear or prejudice. It was a small thought, but it brought warmth to her heart. The elders invited Kai and Alara to a communal area where stories and histories were shared. Kai sat quietly, listening as Alara spoke of her people's past struggles, their victories, and the lessons learned over generations. He asked questions occasionally, not to challenge but to understand. His questions were thoughtful. How do you train your warriors? What principles guide your leaders? How do you decide who is worthy to wield the sword? Each question showed respect, not just curiosity. Alara found herself opening up, sharing details she had never told a human before. Kai noticed subtle details in her storytelling, the pride in her tone, the way her hands moved as she spoke, the careful emphasis on values such as loyalty, courage, and honor. He could see that her culture placed immense importance on principles and ethics, not just skill in battle. He felt a growing admiration for her people, for the way they had survived and thrived despite countless threats. This was a society built on respect, tradition, and mutual care, and he realized that his role in their world was not only to protect Elara but to understand and honor their values. Elara in turn observed Kai's reactions. She saw how he nodded thoughtfully, how he respected the stories and the history of her people. She realized that he was not only a capable fighter but also someone who could appreciate culture, understand duty, and act with integrity. Slowly, a trust began to grow between them. It was quiet at first, like the soft stirring of wind over still water, but it deepened steadily. She felt that he was not an outsider to be cautious of but someone who could be a true ally. The settlement had grown quiet in the days following Kai's arrival. Villagers moved about their routines, children played under the watchful eyes of elders, and warriors trained diligently in the open courtyards. Kai had become a familiar presence, always alert, always respectful, and increasingly trusted by Elara and her clan. The sword, which he had wielded during their first encounter with the raiders, now rested in its designated place within the settlement's central hall, a symbol of protection and honor. Kai had returned it to its rightful place, though he remained aware that danger could strike at any time, and that he might need to wield it again to defend those he had come to care for. One morning, a distant rumble echoed through the canyon surrounding the settlement. Kai's instincts immediately went on high alert. He stood at the edge of the village, scanning the horizon. Dust clouds rose in the distance, and the sharp sound of engines accompanied them. He recognized the movement of vehicles he had never seen before, sleek but menacing, carrying armed figures. His heart pounded, but his training kept him steady. These were no ordinary raiders. They were mercenaries, well-equipped and likely hired to retrieve the sacred sword. He understood the stakes. If the sword were taken, the settlement could fall, and Elara would be in grave danger. Kai turned to alert the villagers. "Prepare yourselves," he said calmly but firmly. "They're coming and they want the sword. Stay close and follow the elders' instructions." The villagers moved quickly, guiding children to safety, gathering supplies and readying defensive positions. Elara joined him at the edge of the courtyard, her eyes wide but determined. "Do you think we can hold them off?" she asked quietly. Kai nodded. "We have to. We'll protect this place together." His confidence reassured her, and she drew her small dagger, ready to support him in any way she could. As the mercenaries approached, Kai and Elara moved to a strategic position overlooking the main path. He noticed that the attackers were trained, coordinating their approach carefully. They had weapons that could reach across distances, but Kai had the advantage of knowledge of the terrain. He positioned himself where he could intercept them effectively, and when necessary use the sword to block or strike. Elara followed his movements, learning quickly how to anticipate and respond. Even in the heat of danger, Kai remained composed, a model of calm strategy under pressure. The first wave of mercenaries reached the settlement. Kai stepped forward, sword in hand, its familiar weight grounding him. He swung with precision, deflecting an energy blade aimed at him. Sparks flew as the sword met their weapon, and Kai's movements were fluid, almost instinctive. The sword seemed to respond to him, glowing faintly as it connected with the attacks, and he could feel its subtle energy reinforcing his strength. The mercenaries were surprised by his skill. A human wielding the sacred sword with such precision was unexpected. They hesitated, giving Kai an opening to protect Elara and the others. Elara watched in awe. She had trained with the clan for years, but she had never seen the sword used with such confidence and control. Kai moved quickly, deflecting strikes and pushing back attackers, keeping the path clear for the villagers to retreat to safety. Each movement was calculated, precise, and effective. The sword's glow intensified, almost as if acknowledging his courage and determination. Elara felt a mixture of relief and admiration. Kai was not only protecting her life but also demonstrating loyalty, skill, and respect for her people. The mercenaries regrouped and attacked in greater numbers. Kai realized he needed to anticipate their strategy. He analyzed their movements, noticing patterns in their coordination. Using the sword, he deflected multiple strikes, countered attacks, and created openings for the villagers to escape unharmed. Elara followed his lead, assisting where she could, supporting those in danger and learning from his example. Kai's presence and guidance turned what could have been chaos into organized defense. His calm determination inspired the villagers, and they began to fight alongside him with renewed confidence. Kai moved to the center of the courtyard where the main cluster of mercenaries had gathered. He parried a heavy blow aimed at him, stepping back with careful balance. The sword's glow increased with each strike, illuminating his path and signaling its approval to the elders. The clan leaders watched from a safe distance, exchanging amazed glances. They had always believed the sword could reveal the worth of its wielder, but they had never imagined a human could awaken its response so strongly. Each time Kai struck, deflected, or countered, the elders felt a deep reassurance that he was not merely protecting Elara but also proving his worthiness in a way that transcended race or species. The mercenaries tried to flank Kai, approaching from multiple directions. He adjusted his stance, swinging the sword with precise arcs, keeping them at bay. His movements were smooth and controlled, blending defensive and offensive techniques seamlessly. He could feel the sword resonating with his intent, reinforcing each strike and guiding him in subtle ways. Elara, inspired by his courage, moved alongside him, helping to distract attackers and guide villagers to safety. Together they became a coordinated force, a testament to trust, strategy, and courage. One of the mercenaries lunged directly at Elara, aiming to grab her. Kai reacted instantly, intercepting the attacker with a powerful strike of the sword. The weapon connected cleanly, forcing the mercenary back and sending him tumbling to the ground. Elara watched, astonished at his speed and precision. She realized that the sword was not only a weapon of defense but also a symbol of his dedication and valor. The glow seemed to reflect his inner strength, showing the elders that his actions were honorable and true. The battle continued for hours, though it felt like minutes to those engaged in it. Kai remained steadfast, deflecting attacks, guiding the villagers and ensuring Elara's safety. The mercenaries were skilled, but they had underestimated the human's resilience and the sword's response to his courage. Each strike Kai made demonstrated not only physical ability but also intelligence and adaptability. He anticipated attacks, created openings, and maintained a strategic balance between offense and defense. The villagers followed his example, gaining confidence from his calm and purposeful actions. At one point, a group of mercenaries attempted a direct assault on the central hall where the sacred sword rested. Kai positioned himself between them and the hall, sword raised high. Energy blasts struck around him, but he parried each one with precision. Sparks flew as the sword met the attacker's weapons, glowing brighter with each connection. Elara ran alongside him, guiding villagers to safety and reinforcing defenses. Kai's presence was commanding yet composed. He did not panic, he did not hesitate, and the sword's glow seemed to validate his every move. The elders, observing from a safe distance, began to murmur in approval. The sword had never responded so strongly to anyone outside the clan. Its glow, intensity, and subtle vibrations signaled to them that Kai's character and courage were exceptional. They whispered among themselves, recognizing that this human had earned a place of honor through his actions. The fact that he had risked his life without hesitation, defended the clan, and protected Elara spoke volumes about his integrity. He had proven himself worthy in a way that transcended tradition, culture, and expectation. Kai pressed forward, anticipating the final assault. He blocked a strike aimed at Elara with a swift motion, stepping between her and the mercenary. The attacker faltered, and Kai's next movement disarmed him completely. The remaining mercenaries hesitated, seeing that their coordinated attacks were failing. Their leader shouted commands, but the hesitation was enough for Kai to regain control of the situation. With one final, decisive swing he forced the attackers to retreat. The settlement had held. The sacred sword, glowing faintly, remained in his hands as a symbol of protection, loyalty, and trust. Elara ran to him, her eyes wide with relief. You saved everyone," she said softly. Kai lowered the sword and shook his head. "We all did this together," he replied. "I just made sure no one got hurt." His humility impressed her further. The sword's glow seemed to pulse gently, almost as if it approved of their bond, the connection forged through courage, trust, and shared purpose. The elders approached cautiously, nodding in recognition of his bravery and skill. One of the elder leaders spoke carefully, "This sword has never responded like this before. It recognizes your courage, your loyalty, and your honor. You have proven your worth, human." Kai looked at him, understanding the weight of the words but remaining humble. "I only did what was necessary," he said simply. "I could not let harm come to Elara or her people." The elder nodded, seeing the truth in his eyes. The sword's glow continued, a subtle reminder that Kai's actions had confirmed something remarkable. In the days following the attack, the settlement recovered. Villagers repaired structures, trained for future defense, and shared stories of the battle. Kai helped wherever he could, not seeking recognition but offering guidance and protection. Elara stayed close, watching him, learning from his skill, and beginning to understand the depth of his courage and loyalty. The sword remained a symbol of their shared trials, a tangible proof of the bond that was forming between Kai and the settlement. The elders continued to observe quietly, acknowledging the human who had risked everything to protect their people. They whispered to each other about the unusual reaction of the sacred sword, noting that Kai's bravery and integrity had gone beyond expectation. In their eyes, the trials of strength had revealed his worth, not just as a protector, but as someone who could be trusted, respected, and valued. The bond between him and Alara had grown, solidified by shared danger, trust, and courage. Kai stood beside Alara at the edge of the courtyard, looking out at the horizon. The last of the mercenaries had fled, leaving only traces of dust and scorched ground. He breathed deeply, feeling a sense of satisfaction mixed with vigilance. The settlement was safe, the sword's glow had validated his efforts, and Alara was unharmed. Yet he knew this was only the beginning. The trials of strength had revealed potential, but the journey ahead required continued courage, respect, and care. Together they had faced the danger and emerged stronger, a testament to the power of trust and shared purpose. The morning after the mercenary attack, the settlement was quiet, save for the soft sounds of villagers repairing the damage and attending to minor injuries. Kai Bennett walked through the streets alongside Alara, noting the careful precision with which the people restored their homes and workshops. The children peeked from behind walls and corners, curious but cautious, observing the human who had defended them so valiantly. Kai smiled gently at them, nodding in acknowledgement, a small gesture that conveyed respect and calm reassurance. His presence was no longer intimidating or foreign, it was a part of their lives, woven into the fabric of the settlement after the recent trials. Alara walked beside him, her mind racing with thoughts she had not expected to feel. She had been taught by her clan to be wary of outsiders, particularly humans, whose strength and intentions were often unpredictable. But Kai had proven himself in the canyon, during the mercenary attack, and through his steady presence afterward. His bravery, skill, and humility had shown her a side of humanity that few of her people had ever seen. She began to realize that trust could grow even in unexpected places, and that sometimes courage and kindness could transcend culture and species. The elders called a meeting in the central hall, a circular space carved into the stone with intricate patterns and symbols etched into the walls. Villagers and warriors gathered quietly, forming a respectful audience. Kai entered with Alara at his side, the sacred sword resting in her hands, its glow faint but steady. The elders' expressions were serious but softened by the memory of his actions. 4 days they had watched him, observed his interactions and assessed his character. The glow of the sword had not faded since the battle. If anything, it had intensified slightly, signaling a bond they did not yet fully understand but acknowledged as significant. The head elder stepped forward, a figure of authority and wisdom, his voice calm and deliberate. "Kai Bennett," he began, his tone carrying the weight of centuries of tradition, "you have shown courage beyond what any human has displayed in our history. You have protected our people, preserved our sacred sword, and acted with integrity in the face of great danger. For this we honor you." Kai bowed respectfully, not out of pride but in recognition of their gratitude and approval. "I did what I had to," he replied simply. "I could not allow harm to come to Alara or her clan." His words were humble, honest, and devoid of exaggeration. Alara felt a warmth spread through her chest as she watched the exchange. She had never heard the elders praise anyone in such a manner, much less a human. Their acknowledgement carried not only approval but also trust, something that had taken generations to cultivate in her culture. She stepped closer to Kai, a faint smile on her face, and felt an unspoken bond forming between them. The sword, glowing softly in her hands, seemed to affirm that this bond was recognized not only by the elders but by forces she could not fully explain. It was a symbol of unity, a connection between two individuals who had proven themselves through action, courage, and respect. The elders gestured for Kai to remain standing as they addressed the gathered villagers. "Let this be known," one said, "that Kai Bennett has earned our respect and trust. His actions reflect honor, loyalty, and bravery. He is no longer an outsider but a protector and friend of our clan." Murmurs of agreement spread through the assembly. Villagers nodded, warriors exchanged respectful glances, and children looked on with wide eyes, impressed and inspired. Kai acknowledged their recognition quietly, knowing that respect is earned through deeds, not titles. Alara stepped forward and spoke softly, her voice carrying over the gathered crowd. "Kai has shown me the meaning of courage not just in battle but in how he treats others. He has earned my trust and my respect. He has shown that strength is not only physical but also moral and compassionate. Her words were deliberate, reflecting the deep admiration she felt for him. The elders listened closely, recognizing the sincerity in her voice. She had spoken openly, something that was not common in her culture unless the speaker was confident in both their judgment and their feelings. Kai turned to her, meeting her gaze with quiet humility. "I could not have done any of it alone," he said. "You taught me as much as I have helped you. Your people, your traditions, your courage, it has guided me as much as anything else." Elara felt a mixture of relief and pride. His acknowledgement of her role in their success reinforced her trust and deepened the connection between them. It was not merely the sword or the battle that had forged this bond. It was mutual respect, shared experience, and understanding. The elders, still observing carefully, discussed in low tones among themselves. The sacred sword had always been a measure of worthiness, a symbol to reveal character and destiny. For it to have responded so strongly to a human was unprecedented. They recognized that Kai's bravery had been coupled with integrity, patience, and wisdom. Each action he took had been thoughtful, deliberate, and protective. They realized that he was not only a skilled fighter but also someone whose character was aligned with the values their clan had cherished for centuries. One of the elder women stepped forward, her voice soft but firm. "Kai Bennett, we recognize that the bond formed through your actions is significant. This sword, which has guided and protected our people for generations, has acknowledged you as worthy. Your presence among us is no longer questioned. You are to be trusted, respected, and honored as a defender and ally." Kai bowed again, the weight of the words settling upon him. He understood their importance and the responsibility that now accompanied his acceptance. The sword had chosen him, but he knew that trust and honor would require continued care and dedication. Elara's eyes glistened as she watched the ceremony. She had felt awe during the canyon fight and gratitude during the mercenary attack, but now she felt a profound connection and respect that went beyond admiration. Kai had proven himself in every possible way, through courage, loyalty, humility, and respect. She realized that this bond, recognized by her people, the elders and the sword, was rare and precious. She took a small step closer to him, feeling the reassurance of his presence and the growing certainty that they would face future challenges together. Kai looked around at the settlement. Villagers went about their work, still cautious but calmer than before. Warriors resumed their training, inspired by his example. The children played more freely, unafraid for the moment, and even the elders seemed lighter in spirit. He felt a quiet pride, not in himself but in the trust and harmony that had been established. He had not sought recognition, yet he understood that true courage and honor are sometimes recognized even when they are not demanded. Over the next few days, the settlement slowly returned to normal. Kai assisted where he could, offering guidance, helping with repairs, and ensuring the safety of all who lived there. He did not act as a commander or leader but as a supportive presence, reinforcing the trust and respect he had earned. Elara continued to watch and learn, her bond with him strengthening through daily interactions and shared experiences. The sword remained nearby, a constant reminder of their trials, their victories, and the recognition that had been bestowed upon them. The elders continued to observe quietly. They noted that Kai's respect for their traditions, his willingness to learn, and his patient guidance had only strengthened the sword's reaction. In their culture, the sword reflected the worthiness of the individual wielding it. It was not merely a measure of strength, but also of honor, wisdom, and character. By acknowledging Kai and allowing him to remain with Elara and the settlement, they had confirmed that his presence was both beneficial and significant. Elara and Kai spent time together in the quieter hours, discussing strategy, tradition, and future plans for the settlement. She shared more about her clan's history, their values, and the responsibilities of the sword. Kai listened attentively, asking thoughtful questions and respecting her insights. She realized that he was not only capable in battle but also capable of understanding, respecting, and embracing the culture of her people. Their trust had grown into a strong foundation, and the elders' acknowledgement had cemented their bond further. By evening, the entire settlement gathered in the central hall again, this time to celebrate their survival and the bravery that had been demonstrated. Villagers spoke in low tones of Kai's actions, of his skill, courage, and humility. The elders nodded, reaffirming their approval and respect. Elara stood beside Kai, her gaze steady and proud. The sword glowed faintly, a symbol of unity and shared purpose, signaling that the bond between the human and the girl was not only recognized but also honored. Kai felt the weight of the moment but remained composed. He understood that recognition carried responsibility. He had been trusted, accepted, and honored by a culture different from his own, yet he had acted with humility, integrity, and care. The sword had confirmed his worth, but he knew that sustaining that trust would require continued courage, respect, and dedication. The recognition and acceptance by the elders in Ilara marked a milestone, but it was only one step in the journey that lay ahead. Ilara turned to him quietly, her voice soft but sincere. "Thank you for everything you have done, Kai. Not just in battle but in how you treat my people and me. You have earned our trust and I feel safe knowing you are here." Kai looked at her, the corner of his mouth lifting in a modest smile. "I only did what I had to do," he replied. "But I am honored by your trust and the elders' recognition. It means more than I can say." The moment was quiet, yet filled with meaning, a bond reinforced by bravery, respect, and shared values. The glow of the sword, the whispers of the elders, and the respect of the villagers all combined to solidify the sense of recognition and acceptance. Kai had proven himself in action, in character, and in humility. Ilara's admiration and the trust of her people created a connection that went beyond circumstance, beyond culture, and beyond expectation. The trials, the defense, and the courage had led to this moment. A recognition that true strength encompasses more than skill, that honor and loyalty are just as important as physical ability, and that bonds formed in trust are lasting and meaningful. The settlement had grown peaceful once more, the echo of the mercenary attack now only a memory carried in the cautious steps of its people. Kai Bennett moved among the villagers with calm awareness, still vigilant, still protective, but with a sense of belonging he had never known. He had come as a stranger, a human from a distant world, but through courage, respect, and loyalty, he had become an accepted part of Ilara's clan. The elders watched him quietly, noting how seamlessly he had integrated into the community. They had recognized his bravery and integrity during the trials, and now they saw that his presence brought stability and trust. Ilara walked alongside Kai, her steps measured but confident. She had observed him in battle, during moments of tension, and in the quieter hours after conflict. Each time he had shown patience, humility, and care, traits that were rare in someone not born into her people's culture. She felt admiration and trust for him deep in her heart, realizing that he was more than a protector. He was a partner in understanding, in defense, and in life. The sacred sword, resting in a place of honor, glimmered faintly, reflecting the bond that had been forged between them. Its glow seemed to affirm the future that awaited them together. Kai had taken it upon himself to assist the clan in preparing for future threats, understanding that the world beyond the settlement was full of danger. He worked alongside the warriors not as a superior but as a guide and ally. He shared strategies learned from his own experiences, blending them with the traditions of Ilara's people. The villagers watched and learned, their respect growing with every decision he made, every step he took in support of their safety. His actions demonstrated that courage was not measured only in combat but also in leadership, foresight, and loyalty. Ilara observed quietly, her heart swelling with pride. She realized that Kai's presence had changed more than just her perspective. It had begun to influence the entire settlement. The villagers felt safer, the warriors more confident, and the elders more reassured. Kai had proven that humans, when guided by honor and respect, could act as powerful allies. The sacred sword, now a symbol not just of the clan's heritage but also of their trust in him, reflected this new reality. It was no longer merely a weapon, it was a bridge between worlds, a testament to courage, unity, and the potential for understanding across species. In the evenings, the settlement gathered in communal spaces to share stories, to train, and to discuss plans for defense and cooperation. Kai sat quietly among them, observing and learning, but always ready to act if danger arose. Children approached him cautiously at first, but they quickly grew comfortable with his presence. He encouraged their curiosity, answered questions about his world, and showed them techniques of strategy and protection that complemented their own training. Through his patient guidance, the next generation began to understand that strength and courage could be expressed in many ways, not just in battle but in wisdom, compassion, and trust. Ilara spent much of her time beside Kai, teaching him the finer points of her clan's traditions, the meaning behind the sword, and the principles that guided her people. He listened attentively, asking questions and showing genuine interest in understanding her culture. Each day brought new lessons, and with each lesson their bond strengthened. Trust, respect, and admiration had grown into a deep connection, recognized not only by them but also by the elders and the villagers. The sacred sword, always nearby, remained a silent witness to their partnership, its glow a reminder of courage, honor, and the unity they had achieved together. The elders called a council to discuss the settlement's future and the integration of Kai's insights into their strategies. They acknowledged his contributions, highlighting how his guidance had prevented further disaster and improved the safety of the entire community. His knowledge of human tactics, combined with their traditional methods, had created a more resilient and prepared settlement. Kai accepted their recognition with humility, emphasizing that his role was to serve and protect, not to dominate or lead. The elders nodded, satisfied that he had embraced the responsibilities entrusted to him with honor. As time passed, threats from beyond the settlement's cliffs and canyons continued to emerge, but each challenge was met with cooperation and strategy. Kai and Alara stood together during these moments, coordinating defenses, supporting the warriors and ensuring the safety of all. The sacred sword was always at the center, a symbol of their shared responsibility and unity. Whenever Kai wielded it, the glow responded to his courage and integrity, a silent affirmation that the trust and respect he had earned were genuine and enduring. The villagers grew accustomed to seeing Kai at the forefront of defense and guidance, not because he sought recognition, but because his presence inspired confidence. Alara continued to learn from him just as he learned from her and her people. Together they developed new training routines, improved strategies for defense, and methods for peaceful coexistence with neighboring clans. Their collaboration became a model for others, demonstrating that courage, trust, and understanding could bridge worlds and cultures. Alara often reflected on the day Kai first intervened with the sword. She had been terrified, surrounded by raiders, unsure of her own abilities. Yet in that moment he had acted without hesitation, protecting her with skill and determination. That single act had begun a chain of events that had transformed her life, the settlement, and their shared future. Kai's bravery had been undeniable, but it was his consistency, patience, and respect that had earned her deep trust and admiration. The sword, a sacred object of her clan, had recognized the worth of his character and bound their destinies together in a subtle, powerful way. Kai, too, reflected on the journey that had brought him here. He had come to the settlement as an outsider, unaware of the sacred sword's significance or the customs of the people he was protecting. Over time he had learned, adapted, and demonstrated not just courage but also honor, humility, and dedication. Each decision, each action had strengthened his bond with Alara and her clan. He understood now that true strength encompassed more than skill with a weapon. It included the ability to inspire trust, to respect others, and to act with integrity even in the face of danger. The sacred sword remained central to their story, not merely as a weapon but as a symbol of the bond between Kai and Alara, between human and alien, and between courage and respect. Villagers and warriors alike treated it with reverence, aware that it had chosen its rightful ally, not by strength alone but by character and loyalty. Its glow served as a reminder of the trials they had faced together and the victories they had achieved through unity and trust. The elders frequently remarked on its brilliance, noting that it had never responded so strongly to an outsider, yet it now reflected the enduring bond they had witnessed firsthand. Kai and Alara worked closely to plan for the settlement's future. They discussed training, diplomacy with neighboring settlements, and the importance of fostering understanding between humans and her people. Each conversation reinforced their trust and partnership. They were no longer simply protector and protected. They had become allies, friends, and partners in shaping a safer, more cooperative world. Their bond, forged in the crucible of danger and nurtured through respect, had grown into something profound and enduring. As seasons passed, stories of Kai's bravery, wisdom, and integrity spread beyond the settlement. Neighboring clans and human allies spoke of the human who had earned the trust of an alien people through courage, respect, and unwavering honor. His actions became legendary, inspiring both humans and aliens to recognize that strength could take many forms, and that true power lay in loyalty, understanding, and cooperation. The sacred sword remained a central symbol of this legacy, its glow a testament to the enduring connection forged between Kai and Alara. Even in quieter moments, Kai remained attentive. He walked with Alara through the cliffs, shared meals with villagers, and participated in training exercises. He never sought praise or recognition, but his actions spoke louder than words. He ensured that the settlement remained safe, that Alara's people felt supported, and that the bond formed through shared trials continued to flourish. The sword, resting nearby or occasionally in his hands during training, served as a reminder of the partnership they had built, a partnership founded on trust, courage, and mutual respect. Alara often reflected on the transformation she had witnessed in both herself and the settlement. From the moment Kai had intervened with the sacred sword, their lives had changed irrevocably. She had learned to trust, to respect, and to recognize the strength in others, even those from a different world. Kai had taught her that bravery was not just about physical prowess but about consistency, care, and integrity. Together, they had built a community fortified not only by skill but also by loyalty, understanding, and unity. The elders frequently consulted Kai on decisions regarding strategy, safety, and collaboration with neighboring groups. They valued his insight, his ability to blend human perspective with their own traditions, and his dedication to the well-being of the clan. His presence was not that of a leader imposed upon them but of a partner whose counsel and actions were earned and trusted. Ilara stood beside him in every council, their partnership evident to all. The sacred sword glowed faintly during these discussions, a reminder of the bond and trust that had been established and reinforced over time. One evening, as the sun set over the cliffs, Kai and Ilara stood together overlooking the settlement. Children played in the distance, warriors trained in the fading light, and villagers moved about their routines. The sword rested between them, its soft glow reflecting the bonds of courage, respect, and shared destiny. Kai turned to Ilara, a quiet smile on his face. "We've come far," he said softly. Ilara nodded, her eyes reflecting both pride and trust. "And we will go further," she replied. Their hands brushed lightly, a simple gesture of partnership, understanding, and commitment to a shared future. Through every challenge, every trial, and every quiet moment, Kai and Ilara's story became a symbol of what was possible when courage, respect, and trust guided actions. The sacred sword remained a lasting emblem of their partnership, the bond between human and alien, and the strength of unity forged through shared trials. Kai had arrived as a protector, but he had become so much more: a partner, a friend, and a symbol of humanity's ability to see worth, honor, and potential where others might not.